Good afternoon. Welcome to Good Guy Sports. I'm Jackson Gerke alongside with our co-host Blake Gerke. Blake Lumberger will be joining us shortly as soon as he can. He will be with us momentarily and stand by, waiting patiently. He will be with us. Just give him some time. He will be with you as soon as he can. But in the meantime, we have Blake Gerke and Mike Roby and our special guest, Mr. Kevin from Duke University, back with us this week after a great trip from Minnesota.
Mhm.
I I hear last time you and I emailed together, but it's great to have you back on Good Guy Sports. It's been too long, Kevin. Great to have you back on the show.
Well, thanks, Jackson. It's great to be here. And also, since it snowed a bit while I was in Minnesota, it's really great to be back here in Durham, North Carolina.
We're happy to have you back, and always love to be always loved having you as one of our favorite guests here on Good Guy Sports. All right, so let's start off with the show. With with the show on our first topic, and that is the one is the Masters tournament is where I'm at this week virtually, but I'm not there for real. But the Masters, as it stands right now, which is in progress, um, as we by the way, and currently Bryson DeChambeau has a one shot has the lead 7 under at the moment. So, right behind him is Danny Willett and Matt Fitzpatrick and Sky Sheffer and Sky Sheffer and Ryan Fox, who is one of their rookie upcoming players from the country of Australia.
I think
According
he's actually an older guy from New Zealand, if I'm not mistaken, Fox. I was
yeah,
looking him up earlier as well because I'd never heard of him.
me neither. Yeah. So every now and then you'll see those like players that we don't really those big names we don't really talk about that are
Someone gets off to a hot start on the first day, and then come Sunday, they're drinking sweet tea by the snack bar. But it's a good story, though, isn't it?
oh, absolutely, yeah. So yeah, those like big name young players making their debuts in the tournament are going to be right with there, but so far Sky Scheffler is 2 under last I checked into it in, but it's not looking good. But at least Tiger Woods got a first birdie of the tournament, so that's all what's really matters right now. So
Yeah, I think for him, it's just good for the fans to see him, and he makes a couple of good shots here and there. I don't think he's quite at a level um, where he can compete with some of the younger guys, but obviously a lot of people in Augusta came to see get a glimpse of Tiger, so it's good that he's out there and just hitting a few balls as well.
I think Blake, he also tends to wear down as the days go on a little bit, don't you? You know what I mean? That you're liable to see his best golf early in the tournament.
Yes, definitely, and I think it's not certain if he'll make the cut. But
Yes.
I think just him being able to, he picks tournaments, he wants to play the majors. Um, so it's definitely just a benefit for the game of golf to have him there, regardless of how well he performs, I would say.
Yep.
all right,
Yeah,
it's great to have Blake Lumberger. Blake Lumberger has now joined us here on Good Guy Sports. For for leading up to our coverage of Masters Week, which is already underway. Blake, great to have you back with us on Good Guy Sports. How's it going? And what do you what's new with you?
Jackson, sorry I'm late. Tiger, I had to replace Tiger's caddy. He told Tiger to take a drop when he was pretty much up against the tree, and I said, Tiger, you still got it. Take that club, flip it upside down, play left-handed, knock the ball out, gain 30 yards, and he did it. Jackson, so sorry, I'm running a little bit late. I'm talking Tiger into thinking that he still got it. He still got it, Jackson. I'm here to report Tiger still has it, but Kevin's right. I think he plays. He's already got a great save. He birdied hole number one, which he traditionally does bad on. But I think Kevin's right. I think he plays good for 2 days. And he'll be the first one to tell you. He's just the stamina. He struggles with the stamina. But he's still got his hands. He's still got his hands. His short game's going to be good. But yeah, Kevin's right. I think it's the last 2 days that it just wipe him out energy wise. So, but like Blake said, it's fantastic for the game. And I love that he's still playing, even though he's not in top primo shape. I think that says a lot of his character. So go Tiger.
I'm glad you're there for him, Blake.
Jack, who you keep an eye on this week? I've got a couple guys I picked to maybe people that not everyone has heard of in terms of some of the golfers. Obviously, you got the big names. You got Scheffler, the favorite. Koepka, DeChambeau is obviously started out pretty well. But keep an eye on a guy who's playing the Masters for the first time this year, a Swedish golfer, Ludvig Aberg, who is I think he's just recently finished college golf. And he's playing Augusta for the first time, and he's been hitting the ball really well the past couple tournaments. So you want to keep an eye on him. I think a couple other guys, maybe Patrick Cantlay, Cameron Young, a couple of the guys that I'll be keeping on to are looking at making a run possibly come Friday, Saturday. So don't get too set on the leaderboard after the first day, because we know in these big tournaments, it's having a hot start is obviously beneficial, but it's about being consistent. So
interesting you mentioned Aberg. I've got him on my list, and even though he's new, he makes the cut 87.5% of the time of the tournaments he's been in so far. So
yeah,
interesting to watch.
he's
Sort of like when I was picking my list, it was sort of like handicapping racehorses. I had no idea what I was doing, so I just tried to handicap them.
Yeah, exactly. It's obviously everyone can pick, some of the heavy hitter favorites here and there, but it's about finding that guy who's 2,000 to 1, or even like 5,000 to 1. I don't know what Aberg's odds were, but someone like a Brian Harmon or a Cameron Young, I kind of set my sights on this year. So we'll see. I think obviously this is pretty unique tournament, and that you can't really predict, unlike maybe like the US Open or the Players or something like that. It's kind of a unique golf course. Lefties have an advantage as well. A lot of people like to pick a lefty to perform well. So not even to win, really, just to kind of make a nice run here and there. So yeah, my guys keep an eye on. Definitely keep an eye on Ludwig. Cameron Young for sure. I like Cantlay as well. So we'll see if my predictions come true. But Mike, do you have any you were saying that you like Aberg as well?
Yeah, I've got him. I've also got Newman, one of the LB guys.
Okay.
Watching him.
It'll be interesting to see how much the leaderboard is comprised of live golfers, and see if that a lot of people, obviously people from the PGA would be happy to see happy to see a leaderboard full of PGA guys with live guys not in contention, right, Blake?
Yeah,
it's a good point.
Yeah. So
my Leicester City.
Yep, go ahead.
My Leicester City is Max Homa. Don't leave him out. Playing with
Hmm.
Tiger, has been hitting the gym. He's longer off the tee. My Leicester City is Max Homa.
Interesting. Who do you like, Roberto? You got
Uh,
a like a flyer for an outsider?
Great,
I
great to have you back on Good Guy Sports. By the way, Roberto, sorry but it's great to have you back on our show. And we want to welcome back everybody. Welcome back, Roberto, to the show. Great to have you back on. As Blake said, who do you like to win? For your top 4 players, do you like for the Masters tournament?
Thanks, Jack. Yeah, no, I'm here, a little late, some technical difficulties, but have my Good Guys Sports podcast shirt. So thank you for having me. I was gonna hop in and say I actually like the Live guys. They posted a picture the other day on social media. John Rahm, I think, is still a favorite, defending champion, a relatively new Live guy, right? Phil Mickelson, you can never count him out. Sometimes he has hot streaks, sometimes he doesn't. Um, Joaquin Neumann or Neiman, uh, as Mike mentioned, I think he's strong too. So I would not be surprised if we have a live champion in the Masters again this year.
Yeah, and Rom's defending champion obviously as well. And
Well, didn't Rom just go to the Live?
Yeah, he was a recent one, and it's
He was in
kind
the
of funny.
PGA when he was
Yeah.
when he won the Masters last year.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, and I guess Brooks. Okay, Brooks won a major while being at Live already, right? I guess now
Yeah.
Ram is at Live now, but he was the defending. But you're right, Mike. He was not in Live when he won last year. So
Yeah.
Yeah, and ultimately, the best golfers kind of rise to the top, right? Like there was, this alleged merger that happened with PGA and Live is supposed to at some point kind of eliminate the differences in competition, etc. But so far that hasn't really come to fruition. And we've seen guys like Rom who, I mean, people are kind of making fun of him because he defected to Live, and then soon after he's complaining that there's not enough 72-hole tournaments with Live, and well, if you want to play more serious golf, then why'd you go to Live, etc. So we'll see if that actually has an effect. My suspicion is that the best golfers play their best golf at the best tournaments, i.e. the majors, which obviously all the Live players want to play in. So I personally don't think it's going to have a huge difference. I don't think the leaderboard, you can say there's X number of PGA, X number of Live. I'm a little hesitant to find a correlation there. I just think the best golfers, rise to the top of the leaderboard, as you would expect anyway.
Do you think any of the 5 amateurs will do or do you have a favorite of any of the amateurs?
So I think looks like Shipley is 1 under as an amateur. I know a couple of them got off to a decent start. There's I know there's a Mexican De La Fuente. I think he's 4 over now.
Mm-hmm.
So Shipley, who, if I'm not mistaken, is he the I don't know, he might have been one of the colleges, but I don't really have too much knowledge of the amateurs. But the high amateur is usually someone who's got a decent score, right? So that's definitely one to keep an eye on for sure, the high amateur.
I was looking at a video earlier today, the Crow's Nest.
Yeah,
it's basically a dormitory where they put they put the amateurs in.
That's what I was gonna say, Mike. I thought so. I knew you would know that. They stay there. They got a little super cool. It's right on the course, right?
Yeah, it's in the club. It's at the top of the clubhouse.
Clubhouse, yeah, so cool.
Yeah. Apparently,
have you guys heard? Go ahead, Mike. What'd you say?
No, go ahead.
I heard something. I watched I got a little bored saying listen to the press conference, and I think I'm gonna start doing that every year. It's fantastic. The little presser that the guy who is in charge of the Masters gives, and one of the things he was talking about is improvements. They are building. Well, one, they've taken over the what's it called, the Thorn, the sandbox, the course that sits adjacent to them, the Augusta City course that sits adjacent to them. They've taken over that with the city, and they're going to redo that, dump a ton of money into that course. And then they've also are going to build. There's phases of player experiences they're going to build outside the course, and then they're going to build a parking deck, or I'm sorry, a garage, underground garage parking for the I guess the players as well. I mean, they're just foot on the gas. Want to make this already the best tournament. They just want to make it even better. So it's really interesting to listen to that presser for the tournament.
Yeah, it's a fantastic tournament, and it's certainly a unique tournament in the sports world. The only major that happens in the same location, etc. So, yeah, it's definitely one of our favorites every year, right, Jack?
That's right. And
I mean, you're there. I mean, you should know, right? I mean,
yeah, right. Your point about the renovations and the parking and all that construction and development they have going on around the course. I think it's gonna drive and more people and the players and the patrons and for the people who run Augusta National, going to make things a lot more better and a lot more better and a lot more better for the next generation and years to come, for even making this tournament even much bigger and more sustainable than where it was in the previous years. So I think that to what Blake said, that the tournament for the future should have a lot to look forward to for what this tournament actually brings, which the patrons and the club should really be excited about.
Jackson, I'm gonna tell real quick. Last thing. Speaking of the Packers, speaking of the Green Bay Packers, the Masters took the playbook out of the Green Bay Packers and the tee box after Amen Corner, after the bridge. What hole is that? The next tee box?
After Amen Corner's 14th hole.
14. The tee box on 14 coming back is temperature controlled. They put pipes under the ground, and it's fan controlled, temperature controlled, so they can grow perfect grass because there's too many trees around it and it gets too much shade. So they pipe the just like the Green Bay Packers. When it gets too cold, they temperature controlled that tee box, which apparently is extremely expensive, which is why no other courses can do this. But here again, it's Augusta National, so they got a temperature controlled tee box, so it looks perfect. And if it's too wet, they can dry it. If it's too cold, they can heat it. And if it's too hot, they can cool it down.
that's impressive. Yeah, all the latest technological golf advancements, plus all the fake animal noises and the the squirrel exterminators probably ring up the bill as well. So,
Do they have Baby Ruths?
do they? Is that on the menu? I think they make their own stuff, don't they? Yeah. Yeah, Jackie, make sure you save some pimento sandwiches for me, by the way.
Yeah, and to add to that, Blake, I think there are talks that they're going to be making the conventions even better, and maybe
cheaper.
They'll add like more healthier and gluten-free options for the patrons to grab a quick bite in between holes and tournaments, which I feel like should be a game changer for the tournament, which is what I think they should be doing.
What did you guys see? You could order this year on the website. You could order their cups. You could order catering to your house with their cups, their pimento cheese, their barbecue, everything comes to your house, a large platter or a small, and it's sold out right away. They just sold out. So next year, we can order a platter for Good Guy Sports. Order ahead. They'll
Let's
ship it
do
to
it.
us.
Sign me up.
I think it's really interesting. And Jackson, you were mentioning a very important word in the context of the Masters, patrons, right? And I don't know if it was mentioned earlier, but I was hearing the other day that the TV deal for the Masters is kind of just a handshake deal between, I think it's CBS and the Masters and Augusta National, with the condition that CBS, or I'm not sure who streams it, who controls that.
ESPN.
Is it ESPN?
Well, so yeah, ESPN has Thursday, Friday, and then CBS has Saturday, Sunday.
Okay. So with the condition that ESPN and CBS don't control the broadcast, but rather Augusta National controls the broadcast. And one of the aspects that they want to control is that they don't want the announcers saying the fans or the crowd. They want the announcers to say the patrons. And I thought that was very interesting. And it brings in. Oh, and another one of the conditions, by the way, was that you can only have 4 minutes of advertising with it for per hour of Masters broadcasting, which I think is also very interesting because so many people are viewing it anyway that they don't need a massive TV deal like we see in other sports. It's a win-win for both the broadcasters and Augusta National. But it's a very interesting contract structure.
Yeah, I'd say everything they do, the economics of the Masters is they pretty much dictate it themselves with the by far the cheapest menu you'd see at any sort of sporting event. And like you said, with the TV contracts, the way that the restrictions they have with people bringing in their phones, etc. So it's pretty unique in the world of sports, the way that they kind of call their own shots, if you will, and they stick to their traditions. So I can definitely see, I can see why they have success with it, but I can also see why it's not really a replicable formula as well because they have the history, the location to kind of do this. But I don't know. I think if the U.S. Open tried to like do a lot of this similar things or some other tournament, it just doesn't really have the same mystique. So it's not really anything replicable anywhere else in sports, I think.
Well, and one more thing about that, that's a good point. This is Verm Lundquist last year, the guy who called the Tiger ball dropping in, the kicks, the pick six. This is last year announcing.
Big Vern will be we'll definitely miss him, won't we, Jack?
We sure will. Vern is really yes, Vern is a very special broadcaster, and he lives the game, and he is golf, and
He is the game.
yeah, Vern Lundquist is going to be he's going to be missed, but we will always remember him for what comes next in his life, and I feel happy for him for what he does next because Vern Lundquist, of course, we remember one of the memorable moments, including the incredible shot that Tiger Woods made in the '05 Masters. That crazy play. I'm sure I'll remember that highlight and along with many others. But yeah, Vernon Lundquist, yeah, he is a sport of golf, and we will definitely he will definitely be missed and remembered for him, and I'm sure he'll have a great life for what comes next for him.
What's our next topic today, Jack?
Let's take a turn and go from the Masters to the National Championship Final Four, where the Yukon Huskies win back-to-back national champions, where they are finishing a complete 6-0 all-time in national championships games. And
Well, I didn't know it. They're 6-0.
Yes, that's a great stat right there, as Dave Patrick would say. And then UConn has completed its run and they and their championship and they finally got it done as they went back-to-back national championships as they joined Lake Company along with the Florida Gators, the 91 and 92 Duke Blue Devils team, along with Oklahoma State, Kentucky, San Francisco, and Cincinnati. UConn and Florida, I think, are similar teams. Along with G. Noah and Billy Dobbin, and they had a special group of guys on those rosters for those teams as well. Same with UConn. Dan Hurley. If you look at his backstory from where he came from, he grew up in Jersey City. He is a Northeast guy, and he has won multiple championships. They are the new blue blood, and they have surpassed the Duke Blue Devils in for the six in for combined national championships along with John Wooden and UCLA.
That hurts.
Yeah. For all you Blue Devils fans out there, yeah, it does sting a little bit, but you know what? UConn really deserved it, and I think we've been waiting for this for a long time to happen, which has never been done ever recently or the last time since the 2006 since those Florida Gator teams, and I think I can say that UConn has really took a step, and I think that Dan Hurley and those guys are really the new blue blood in college basketball. I say that because Mr. Kevin grew up in Connecticut, and he knows all about that area because he grew up not far from that campus. And actually Dan Hurley's son actually played at Duke, so I feel like there's actually a bit of a connection with them. So I do feel like UConn, Duke, and Kentucky, UNC, although UConn for this decade and generation, yes, I do think UConn is the new blue blood in men's basketball. Now they have won championship in women's team before, but this UConn's men's team, yeah, that's a very special group of guys, and they found a way to get it done, and they went up against a Purdue Boilermakers, against a tall guy of Zach Edey, and for the women's game we got Caitlin Clark. Now, as I always say, for all of us on sports talk shows, the best player doesn't always win the championship. No matter what team or whether it's pros or college or high school, it doesn't. Sometimes it doesn't always go his way. So that's usually what happens. And UConn ended up being the better team in the second half than they were in the first half. But although Purdue did go on a little run, but just ran out of steam in the second half, and Purdue just went ice cold in their shots, and Zach Edey just couldn't get anything going in the second half, but UConn just ran away in the second half and just found a way to get a championship to win the championship. But other than that, UConn has repeated, and they're still the champs, and I'll leave it at that. And guys, what do you think about and for the women's side, South Carolina, they had completed a 38-0 record against Caitlin Clark, which we respect, and she had a great season. She will have a great career in the WNBA. Most likely going to be drafted with the Fever of Indiana, and when I think of Caitlin Clark, I think, in my opinion, she's going to be the next MJ, or the next MJ, Larry Board, or Magic Johnson. But I think she's going to be the Michael Jordan of women's college basketball. So a lot of information down, but guys, what an incredible Final Four run between the men's tournament and the women's tournament. Guys, what are your reactions to the exciting finish for the men's and women's basketball tournaments and leading up to the Final Four and championship runs.
Well, I think it's interesting. The women outscored the men. The South Carolina 87, Iowa 75, and UConn was 75-60 on Purdue. So the women had a very exciting game. You know, the run and shoot, as well as beat the men in the TV ratings.
They sure did, didn't they, Mike? They
Yeah.
just clobbered them there by about 4 million viewers.
About
I
4
think.
million viewers. Now, I don't know if it was you know, the time, the day and the time, but you know, that was impressive.
I thought it was a great tribute to in terms of the way people responded to the way Caitlin Clark in particular has had captivated the basketball viewing world and all, and add to that the whole issue of South Carolina going for an undefeated season. I thought it just made for compelling basketball.
Yeah, and the South Carolina coach thanking Clark at the end. I mean,
Yeah.
what very class,
Very gracious,
very
you're right.
gracious. You know,
Yeah.
And
it was-
something interesting there too about the women's Final Four is the other two teams in the Final Four were, oh, I don't know what happened with those.
Is it your birthday?
I guess it's my birthday. Wait, what happens if I do this again?
If you do that, it
Or if I anyway, the other two teams that lost in the women's Final Four were UConn and NC State, which were also two of the men's teams
Yeah.
in the Final Four. And so I think that also drove, a lot of viewership. Those two teams in particular drove a lot of viewership, but as we said, also Caitlin Clark and the potential for an undefeated season in South Carolina, which ended up becoming a reality.
yeah.
It was a really cool season. Very interesting March Madness.
Yeah, last year's women's final with LSU and Iowa they drew 9.9 million viewers. This year the women drew 18.8 million viewers, almost
Cool.
double what they did last year, which kind of tells you what the catalyst that Caitlin Clark had in women's basketball and the popularity.
I will say, and it certainly felt like double, right? The media was giving it a lot of coverage, which I think is a good thing. I will say though, there was a lot of heat in the media or in social media about South Carolina not getting as much credit as they deserve because all of the stories, even after they won, just tied back to Caitlin Clark and end of Caitlin Clark's career. She will be the #1 pick in the NBA draft in all likelihood, as Jack said. But what about South Carolina? Nobody was talking about them. Undefeated season, great coach who, as Mike said, very classy coach too, by acknowledging her opponent's strengths. I think that might be one of the sleeper stories, even though obviously everyone knows that they won and they had an undefeated season. I don't think the amount of media coverage they've received for being an undefeated champion has been commensurate to that. So
Yeah.
I can see that you're right about that. Once again, I think it goes back to the degree to which Caitlin Clark was the story of the season, particularly the second half of the season. And the coverage suddenly you were seeing her everywhere, and particularly when she was standing on the logo when she let go of the three that hit. I think you're very right. Yeah, I think you're very right that it's really continued to overwhelm what, in many respects, of course, should be the story: who won the NCAA women's title and who did it with an undefeated season. That's an excellent point.
Well, South
Yeah.
Carolina beat them in the paint and on the glass, just like UConn did.
Yeah, and I'm sure that provided a lot of extra motivation for that South Carolina team, thinking, we're the undefeated team, we're the best team in the country, but maybe we're not getting the same amount of coverage. And you can definitely tell in that championship game, they were trying to make a statement. They weren't letting they were going to let Caitlin Clark, beat them, and maybe you could argue she was taking too many shots, etc. But in that UConn game, she just hit so many threes, and that's obviously her game, and that's how Iowa got as far as they did. So, but no, I agree. I think this is a pretty historic South Carolina team, a pretty historic head coach. Don Staley is being able to bring in so much talent, and I think we mentioned it before. None of the players on her title-winning team last year, or her team last year, I guess they didn't win the title last year, but returned this year. So this is a new class of lots of new faces in Columbia for Coach Staley, and for her to pull off undefeated season like this is very impressive. But yeah, no, it was I think that UConn Iowa game in particular was a great matchup. Seeing Paige Beckers, and that obviously UConn's got the pedigree, women's and men's now basketball. So that was made for a really exciting contest. Obviously, some controversial foul calls as well as you usually see in this March Madness tournament. I think I mentioned that at one point to kind of keep an eye and see how much if the refs are greasing the wheels a little bit for these Iowa games. To be honest, I didn't really have much of a problem with that call at the end of UConn Iowa. I know maybe a lot of people were making a big deal about that, but personally, if you've watched any of the March Madness tournament, men's or women's, that's always going to be called by the referees. There's a very low tolerance for fouls in college basketball, in my opinion, right now. So you can tell the savvy players know how to draw fouls, whether it's men's or women's college basketball in these tournaments. So I didn't have a problem with that late call. Actually, I thought that was fair enough. So, but yeah, ultimately it wasn't enough. South Carolina clear winners.
Yeah, definitely. There was no doubter. We were listening to it on XM radio on the way back from the Nationals game Sunday, and listening to the radio, it was, all sorts of different people in South Carolina were touching the ball. It was, you could just visualize it was very much a team effort, and they were getting all the rebounds and everything.
I think that goes back to something that Jackson said before about the fact that the best individual player isn't necessarily going to be on the team that brings home the championship. I think it's a great what we saw both in South Carolina and UConn on the men's side is how it's a team game. It is a team game, and it's Caitlin Clark may have been the best individual player on that court. Iowa was not the best team in the long run, and I think UConn. Edie played of course had a heck of a game offensively, but still UConn was clearly the better team when you came down to it.
Yeah, Edie scored 37 points, but they still lost.
Right.
But he said he didn't play good. He was upset with himself. He said he's got to play better than that. Kevin, I think you make a good point. I think Dawn, if you listen to Dawn Staley's interviews, she said exactly what you said. She said, if I have a player that's coming in that wants to score 30 points, be the star player, 40 points a game, she said, this is the school for you. She said, we're going to have 9, 10 girls rotate in. And if you want to be the 30-point a game girl, you need to go to another school. So she actually tells recruits exactly what you said. It's a team game, our team. One more thing, that Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark, and if Angel Reese will come to Iowa to give Caitlin the big girl, they can go and challenge South Carolina Gamecocks next year. So we'll see what happens with that rumor.
Yeah, no, I think most of those top players will be in the WNBA next year, and that's interesting to see how the WNBA is able to capitalize on all this great
Yeah.
generation of players. Hopefully they can keep the momentum going on their side.
Like you can't give me one more year. Angel Reese goes to Iowa and faces off against the Gamecocks next year in the championship.
I just have a hard time picturing that. But listen, I've got no doubt South Carolina is going to reload. Iowa's probably now an attractive place for a lot of women's college basketball players as well. So I think there's going to be plenty of good storylines next year as well. So no doubt about it.
One
If
other
I,
thing
if
I'd
I,
like to add before we move on to the next topic that as Uncle Mike said about the TV ratings, they actually beat out the NBA playoffs and the World Series combined. So that tells you how big the game and important it is, and the viewership is for many maybe in the world for how people really know how big of a game that is. So something tells you of how even of how much of a bigger matchup that is, especially for especially for the viewers of for the ratings for the people that watch it. So it just tells you how great and important game that is compared to the other sports. Um, just for just 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 because of how massive and big of a game it is.
Absolutely. What's
All right, so
our
I do want to all right, I do have some news to share with you. This might be a bit surprising, but John Calipari is leaving Kentucky, taking the job with the Arkansas Razorbacks. Now, I do want to ask you guys this because we've seen this before with Mike Krzyzewski, although that's a different although this one's different because he retired, John Calipari is not. And they didn't, and it's interesting because they didn't fire him. Arkansas actually offered the job to him, which brings me to my question because before you guys jump into this conversation and this roundtable here, here's where I think where Kentucky should do. I think they should do what the Blue Devils did for Duke, and that is hire one of their coaches from their coaching staff um under the interim like they did with John Shire. I think it will be the perfect fit. Although there are some big names that are linked to this job, Dan Hurley, Jay Wright, and then Nate Oates, and then and then Coach Drew from Baylor are also linked in there, and then Billy Donovan who is who is the one that's giving you the biggest attention, although he although he does decline to although he has declined and that job and that he probably would most likely remain for the Bulls as they're in the play-in tournament. So if I were Kentucky and Mitch Barnhart for the athletic director, I think they should do what Duke did, and that is hire a coach from the coaching staff for the interim to be remove from the interim tag to be named full-time coach is what they should do, in my opinion. What do you guys think?
I think you got an interesting point there, Jack. Among other things, I think most of the names that you've mentioned in terms of the more high-profile coaches have been very cool to Kentucky. I think Drew at Baylor just said he's not interested, and I don't think Dan Hurley is about to leave UConn at this point. And you look at some of those other names. I think they, if they can't get a high-profile guy to come on in, looking for somebody who's currently on the staff, who knows the team members that they've currently got. Although certainly a number of them will be on their way, I suspect, into the portal. But there may be an awful lot to say for that. I'd be interested to see what other people think here.
Yeah, I agree. I think Jack is onto something here, because you see that there were several high profile coaching jobs that opened up in the past few years, right? Obviously, you mentioned Coach K leaving and John Shire stepping in. You also have Jay Wright retiring, and Kyle Neptune stepping in, who wasn't in the staff at the time, but had been in Villanova's staff before. And then you also have, I'm blanking on the name, UNC coach.
It's the
Roy
current coach.
Hubert Davis is the current. Yeah,
Davis.
Roy Williams. Roy Williams.
Following Roy Williams.
Exactly. Roy Williams retires, and member of his staff, Hubert Davis, comes in. And you kind of see two separate stories, right? A year or two in, well, actually, the first year in, UNC makes it to the Final Four with Hubert Davis. Second year in, first year in, John Shire wins the ACC tournament and second year in goes to the Elite Eight. Worked out well. On the other hand, Villanova hasn't had the same luck, right? And they didn't make the tournament the past 2 years under Kyle Neptune. It looks like they're letting him establish himself in the third year. But this is a move unlike others, right? Because it's not like the coach retired, as you said, Jack. This is the coach going to a rival, and especially for the Blue Bloods. We mentioned three of the Blue Bloods already. You have Bill Self at Kansas too, and maybe you can call UConn a Blue Blood now. But this is risky, This is like when it's equivalent to saying John Shire as head coach goes to Pitt, for example, right? Or to Georgia Tech, or to another school that doesn't have the same level of basketball reputation as the Blue Bloods. And so I think it's very interesting. Obviously, it's a big contract, but I can assure you that the Kentucky fans are probably not very happy after a few years of not doing great in the tournament, and now they're long-time Hall of Fame coach leaving out of nowhere.
Wouldn't there possibly be an argument to say that a lot of the fans in Lexington will be happy to see the back of Calipari, though, given the past couple of disappointing seasons they've had, particularly in the tournament?
Point.
Very fair point. I understand the point of him going to, and I'm pretty sure Kentucky and Arkansas are like kind of rivals.
SEC.
Well, yeah, not even in the SEC, but just in terms of like regional rivalries as well. I think those two schools are kind of have a bit of a rift as well over the past couple of seasons in different sports and stuff. But I'm not surprised that I was surprised to see immediately following that shock loss to Oakland that that they were gonna stay. He was gonna stay, and then it seems like something happened and the decision was made. I mean, it's was that decision made by him? Was there pressure from from the athletic director of the school, boosters, etc.? Who knows? And Calipari is obviously a high profile coach, and I've been saying for a while he's really been more of a recruiter than a coach more recently at Kentucky, and that worked out well for him in that 1 year where they had a whole roster of talent with Anthony Davis, etc. And he won that championship. But it seems like he's really been riding off of that one title, and fair play, it's a title, but lots of coaches now. Dan Hurley have won multiple titles, have gotten their team much farther than Calipari has in the recent past. So who knows? Maybe it seems like Arkansas is the kind of place where they're going to give him a blank canvas and let him go out there and do what he does best and recruit and try and build something from scratch there. But if I'm a Kentucky fan, I'm a little bit, maybe I'm a little bit upset that he's going to in-conference rival, but ultimately it just comes down to making the right decision and getting the right person through the door. I know there's been speculation about maybe it being a former Kentucky great player, or like you said, somebody that knows the program, maybe a former assistant coach, etc. We know in college basketball, it's a bit more of a tighter environment in terms of people coming back that were with the program previously, etc. So definitely a big job to keep an eye on for sure. They are a blue blood, maybe going through a bit of a rough patch. UConn's definitely looking to steal their blue blood ticket from them these past couple of seasons. So it'll be interesting to see who they end up going with.
When was the last time that Kentucky won the championship, and the
20
last time they were in the Final Four?
2012 is when they won the championship, isn't
Okay.
it? So it's 12 years ago now.
Yep.
And they've been knocked out early, I think, in the past several years. So I
Yeah,
mean, I think on that point, Blake, your point about Kentucky fans may have had a love-hate relationship with Calipari. He won them the championship 12 years ago, but
What have you done for me lately?
it can be a cutthroat world, college
yeah,
basketball, can it?
Yeah. Yeah.
definitely,
So
definitely.
I would think that the fans probably are just as well that he does go. I would just be more concerned with what this does to recruiting in the transfer portal.
One of the things I've heard, Mike, and maybe you have too, is that and the rest of us on here, Calipari, I'm told, is going to be taking some deep pocket NIL contributors with him when he goes. That they're not necessarily as committed to Kentucky on this score as they are to Calipari personally.
Mm-hmm.
So that's going to help. That'd be a big help, obviously, to Arkansas, which itself has some deep pocketed. The Hunt family, I think, in particular, has poured a lot of money in there and stuff. So it'd be interesting. And I'm thinking also, just because it was mentioned, I think Blake, maybe it was you who mentioned bringing in former players, and I think maybe Juwan Howard is a cautionary tale about that in terms of what happens at Michigan. Hubert Davis has done pretty darn well at UNC, but
And
then
Shire.
Shire. Yep, yep. Yeah, I got to show my Duke when I say that. You're right, but so it'll be very interesting to see where that high profile job ends up, for sure.
Something
I'll
else
tell
I
you
think.
what.
Oh,
Oh, go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
oh, go ahead, Blake. Sorry.
No, I'm just gonna say, I'd say Mike's got a great point about short-term memory, and there's a guy. I don't know if you guys have heard of him. His name's Bill Belichick, and you can win all these Super Bowls. Man, you got a couple of bad seasons, and hey, don't let the door hit you where the good Lord splits you. So yeah, it's tough these days in the coaching world. Very short-term memories out there.
It's always for those of us who followed Duke for a long time, it's always great to remember that by Coach K's third year, there were significant people calling for us to find a good coach, and that's when his contract was extended, surprising some, and 5 national championships later, he retired.
Which
The
is
rest
why I
is
think.
yeah.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Blake.
No. Just say the rest is history.
Yeah, and that's why I think Villanova is continuing to have faith on Kyle Neptune. The fans, the students, maybe aren't huge fans of Kyle Neptune right now after 2 years that they didn't make the tournament. I think they have maybe one more year with Kyle Neptune. If he makes a good run in the tournament, I think he'll stay. That'll be interesting though. And Blake, you also mentioned something about having a blank slate at Arkansas, Calipari, and that's literally almost what he said in his press conference. he said, I spoke to the team of one, essentially, because I believe the 3 players on the team currently already declared for the transfer portal in Arkansas. So he literally has a blank slate wherein the only person in the team is himself.
Yeah.
Assuming those guys leave, right? But maybe now that Calipari is coming in, and as Kevin said, maybe more, deeper NIL pockets, maybe those guys will stay. I don't know if declaring for the transfer portal is binding. Can you stay after you declared? But I'm not sure. In any case.
I believe there is a date after which it becomes binding, but unless you're a grad student, in which case
Okay,
then it's wide open.
interesting. Okay.
But
I'll say this.
Go ahead, Blake.
No, just to y'all's point about that job at Kentucky, who in the world would want to take that? You're telling me I should take a job where I'm replacing a coach that's pretty much been asked to leave on good terms. I mean, I get he hasn't won the tournament in a while, but you're asking me to take a job that a coach has made the tournament almost every single year, and he's being asked to leave. And so, I mean, that to me, that is a very high pressure, high expectation job. That's a tough job to take if I'm a big time coach.
Yeah, absolutely. Could prove to be a poison chalice for sure. Yeah. Only time will tell, I suppose.
The only name that I'm missing that I want to throw out there is Bruce Pearl, although I don't think he's going anywhere. He'll probably stay and remain at Auburn as the head coach. So I do think Kentucky the route that they should take is interim. So I do think Mitch Barnhart and the Wildcats will definitely be making the right decision for sure.
Yeah, I don't think Bruce Pearl and his goatee are going anywhere, to be fair. So anything you want to mention before we close here, Jackson? You got a couple minutes.
Yeah, so we've got a few minutes left. But yeah, our Braves got spanked by the Mets.
Oh, that's not what I was talking about.
I got some different news. I'm just looking here that DeChambeau is still leading right now at 7 under, but Scotty Scheffler has closed to within one shot. So he's 6 under right
Yeah,
now.
it's not a surprise to anyone, is it? Yeah, Scheffler's obviously he's going to be in contention come Sunday for sure, isn't he?
I think
So Jack, my Nationals are leading the league in stolen bases.
Ooh.
Do you get a trophy for that?
Nats on the run.
Mike, I think I know exactly why that is because it's all in part thanks to CJ Abrams, who I think now I heard it on the radio that's I've heard rumors about this that he is going to be their all-star for next season.
He should be. He should have been an all-star last year, but we've had 4 guys that have stole 3 bases in a single game so far this year. So it's not
and
just
Mike,
yeah.
You can't steal a base unless you get on base. So how about that too?
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
And
Speaking
also,
of baseball,
and also, Mike, in news in baseball, Jackson Holliday gets called up to the big leagues with the Orioles.
Yep.
I don't know if you heard about it, but I think he's going to be the next Bryce Harper of that team, which
Yeah.
I think he is, and I think he's going to be having a great career with Gunnar Henderson. And
he's going to be wearing number 7. The last Oriole to win number 7 was Cal Ripken Sr.
That's
They
right.
asked the
pressure.
Ripken family about that. Cal Ripken Jr. posted they would be honored for him to wear number 7.
wow.
So
Wow.
class act all the way.
Speaking of baseball, one more thing, guys. We had the Battle of the Carolinas in collegiate baseball right here in Charlotte at the AAA Knight Stadium the other night. We had the North Carolina baseball team and the South Carolina Gamecocks, Jackson. And of course, there's only one Carolina, as we all know, and the Gamecocks were victorious 2-1 in Charlotte. And both the closers, Mike, North Carolina's closer was throwing 93, mowed 3 of our best players down back-to-back strikeouts, and our closer was throwing 95 and hit 96 one time right here in Charlotte. So what a game! What a game to
Wow.
watch!
Ooh.
I hope they don't have Tommy John coming. Throwing that hard.
Well, if you want to know the All-Star team in Major League Baseball, just look at the DL right now. They're all on it.
Yes. Absolutely.
Yeah, we'll be keeping an eye on the standings. Hopefully, it's a long season, so we don't want to come to any conclusions. You know, a 12-run defeat for the Braves. You know, it's water under the bridge. We're just getting it out of the way on Thursday, and then
Yeah.
jumping into a nice clean series this weekend.
Well,
So
you're
I'm not
playing
worried
the
at all, Mike.
Marlins this weekend, so
That's
And
an
it al-
easy 3 points.
Blake, it only counts as one loss, doesn't it?
Exactly. That's the
Yeah.
great thing about baseball, is that you can just sweep it all under the rug, and you got a game tomorrow.
that's right.
Gotta
Long
have a
season,
short-term memory.
Start over.
Absolutely.
long season of dog days of summer. So
All right.
it's only,
All right.
like you guys said, it's only one game. Lots of baseball left to discuss on the sports show. So there is that. Roberto, Mike, Mr. Kevin, the 2 Blakes, great to have you. Mr. Kevin, Roberto actually graduated from Duke Duke University and was happened to be one of their former students. So he actually graduated he graduated from there at the school. So it was really a first for him to be meeting each other, which I feel like they would be a great connection to be friends of our sports show.
Roberto, great to meet you.
Likewise, Mr. Kevin.
Look forward to getting together, talking with you, and all. And the next show, as a matter of fact, and Jack, I'm sure is going to get to it. But
Yes.
we're going to be showing some areas that you know and Duke Hall of Fame.
That's
Nice.
right. That's right. I forgot. Yeah, I forgot about it. That wanted to share with you guys that yes, I will be at the Duke campus this Monday for our special show.
Nice.
But it was great to have it for our guests who are joining us. But as for our 2 co-hosts, you are more than welcome to join me if you can. I will be dressed up with my dress khaki pants with my Duke polo shirt. Feel free to drop by and join me in person. And join my show. We would love to have you.
All right.
Won't miss it.
All right. Thanks, Jack. Thanks for a good
Thank
show,
you,
man.
Jack.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Roberto, thank you, Kevin. Blake, Theo Wamberger, Blake Gerke. Great to have you guys at Good Guy Sports. We'll talk to you soon. I will, Mr. Kevin, great to talk to you. I will see you on Monday for our special show. Can't wait to see you on the Duke Hall of Fame. It's going to be historic and special and educational. I can't wait to hear all. I can't wait to see it. Looking forward to it. I can't wait to hear all about it on Monday.
Me too. You bet.
Jackson, there's a if you just happen to go in the team shop, there's a basketball player that's got an amazing last name that I just realized after this year. So if you happen to see his jersey, pick one up for me and your brother. Okay.
I will be happy to. I will try my best.
You wouldn't mean somebody named Blake's, would you?
That's the one. That is the one.
I think I've heard of him. All right. Thanks, Jack.
Thanks, Jack.
Thanks,
Thank you, Jack.
See you. Bye, everyone.
See you guys.
Bye.
Mike,
Bye-bye.
great to have you guys.